we're not presented by CBS, of course, but I mean, you know what? I should have just played this. The special presentation music.
Yeah.
So here we are on Thursday, December 14th. I'm Rogelio Castillo, alongside me is Uper and Chris. And this was the last thing I was expecting to do on Thursday night, because we just talked to Ryan Garco, the VP of player personnel for the Detroit Tigers.
And development.
They were great. That went really well. And that's over on the that's over on the Tiger Milo Report YouTube channel. Yesterday, we talked to JJ Cooper, and we did a podcast. This is the third consecutive day I've done the podcast. It just on those. We've done 3 days in a row, right? Yeah.
And you 4 guys podcasts have been on with 3 outstanding people this week.
We got you.
Yeah.
I couldn't resist. Yeah, if you guys are getting paid by the hour on this podcasting stuff, you guys, you're home free.
Well, it's been fun. A couple of great guests. Yeah, and as you said, the Tigers are making some news. Chafin, we talked about on Tuesday, and now they signed Jack Flaherty, which, as Raj remembered, he actually suggested 2 days ago, I think, right?
Yeah.
That was the show 2 days ago?
Yeah. I thought this is something I've talked about even beforehand, that he just fits that Tiger profile of somebody they can maximize and work on. And I know there's some people, I'm sorry, Mark Gurash, Mark's really upset about this, but at the same time, the money is interesting. So that's where I think 1 year, $14 million, but they paid. And whether they get the lefty out of Japan, I don't think it's going to happen now. I don't know. I mean, again, the Tigers are mysterious. There's somebody on Twitter, Tigers Turmoil, who says that apparently they're like ninja, like Scott Harrison Ninja, they move, and apparently he called this happen, which I just think it's common sense. Just that's how he operates.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I don't think we were the first to suggest Flaherty because he fits kind of perfectly the mold that we've come to expect the Tigers to target in free agency. It's the Michael Lorenzen thing all over again. Ryan Garco mentioned us today when he was talking about player development. He said, it doesn't stop in the minors. And he talked about how they helped Michael Lorenzen develop in the majors. And that's one of the things that Scott Harris described as one of their goals, is to establish a culture of development and to be a place where players come and get better. This is going to be an interesting challenge because they're and people know Jack Flaherty was when he was young with the Cardinals, he was trending toward being an ace.
Yeah.
He was a top 5 Cy Young finish in his second full season, and then injuries hit him over and over again, and it looked like he was never going to come back. And then last year, I want to say I even used him as my ugly or my bad in one of our segments.
Yes,
because things were very bad. And remember, they were blaming the catcher. I don't think Jack Flaherty did specifically, but the Cardinals kind of benched Contreras. And Flaherty had some issues where he said he wasn't throwing as hard as he could, purpose. Like it wasn't a great situation there, but he did eventually kind of turn things around a little bit and ended up putting up the ERA. I think was a little bit ugly, but his FIP ended up being 4.3, 4.4, something like that. He had a pretty high. Is that John Flaherty?
Yeah, because Uper tweeted out John Flaherty earlier, and I had to put Yeah, you put John Flaherty, so I had to put.
I mean, John and Jack are interchangeable, right? John F. Kennedy, Jack Kennedy, same thing.
Sure. That's what I meant.
Sorry, Uper. I saw it, and that's why I put it in the thumbnail, because people were like wondering, why did I put a former Tigers catcher, now Yankees broadcaster in there? And anyway, no relation, of course, either. But
I was a little surprised at the money, obviously. I mean, I've often said, I've been saying for 15 years or more, there's no bad 1-year contracts, right? I mean, there's only so much that can go wrong here. Worst case scenario, they end up with a highly paid Drew Hutchison, okay, if things go poorly. If they can get him to a little higher level and get him trending back to where he was, it could be a really nice 1-year signing where he helps them do some things this year, or maybe he becomes tradable in the summer. Who knows? but he has a background where he's had some success. Obviously, he's had a long period of struggles as well. But that's, what you're going to get for these guys with a 1-year deal. But obviously, the fact that they decided to invest $14 million, which was a little eye-opening, there had to be some other teams in the mix that they felt they had to outbid and get him to Detroit. And they must see, the Fetters of the world must see something that they really want to work with. Otherwise, I'm sure they would have went a different way with where they spent their $14 million. So I don't think this, when in the world of podcasting, right, everybody makes fun of emergency podcasts. This probably isn't a 4-alarm fire with a building fully engulfed in flames. This is more like a little grass fire out in the woods. But it's still, I think, a move that, the old saw, you can't have too much pitching. They added this guy for a year. They're going to see what they have. They paid a little bit of money for it, but that's okay. They have money.
And they reported, by the way, that there was other teams in consideration for it too. Right. So I think that's what the case is. I can see this being a deal for the Cubs, who are still looking to get pitching help. You could see this as a potential signing by the Yankees, and the Dodgers just traded, by the way, just a second later. Tyler Glasnow trade from Tampa to LA was fully announced. So whatever the case is, look, the bottom line is now they're talking about, like, Chris mentioned on Twitter that he thinks that the Tigers would have enough to trade for a starter in a deal. And I look at it that, like, I was just thinking about this from a positional standpoint. And we talked about this even before the Flaherty signing. I think the Tigers are in a strength or building from a position of strength. And if they decided to say, you can never have enough starters, and Harris has said that, be that as it may, but for the right price, a starter can get you another bat. And I'm just not convinced the Tigers are just going to sit there and go, oh yeah, this is our offense for the coming into 2024. I think they can draw from a position of strength. Teams need pitching all over the place. And there's prospects that are held, or for that matter, a person who can play third base every day. Because I'm sorry, I just don't think, we're just going to put Matt. No one's also came out on the front office and said, we're just going to put Matt Verling at third base and call it a day. It's not, there's nothing been said. No one said that. So take it as maybe the Tigers are continually searching. They are moving like ninjas. And I can't remember the last time Jeff Passan broke a story for the Tigers. It's been a while.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, this was one that the beat writers, the local guys didn't get. Evan Petzold had the Kenta Maeda one first. I don't know who had Chafin first. Did Evan get that one first too? I think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. I just thinking about that Glasnow thing. He's obviously a better pitcher than Jack Flaherty, and they gave up more, and he's more expensive. But he's made 70 starts since 2019, and Flaherty's made 90 something. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Flaherty has a better year than Glasnow just based on injury track record. Not that Flaherty's terribly healthy. It's it was more money than I was expecting him to get, but again, it's not exorbitant by any means. That they say it's up to 15 million if he makes like 30 starts, which is probably fine, right? Like if he's terrible, he's probably not going to be making those last 4 or 5 starts. Right. But yeah, there's enough to like here, and so yeah, my initial reaction was like, okay, I think the Tigers can now move a starter. Doesn't mean they will. Obviously, everybody's like, who? What are you talking about? No, they're gonna, they need depth, and I agree with that to a certain extent. But if you're looking at it, and obviously nobody stays healthy all year long, but if you look at the rotation, you're probably heading into opening day with Skubal, Maeda, hopefully Mize. You don't know. But we're kind of penciling him in there, right? Is going to be one of the members of the rotation. And then it's, you got Flaherty. You're not signing a guy to $14-15 million deal to not have him be one of your starters, at least to start the year.
Yeah. So
then you've got 3 spots, or 3 or 4 guys for 1 spot. You got Manning, you got Olsen, you got Gibson Long, you got Tyler Montero. Maybe if he gets a shot, maybe not the move into the bullpen or whatever. So I just don't think it's one thing to have depth. But I don't know if they're going to just sit there and put Reese Olson, after he pitched better than Matt Manning basically last year, back in Toledo for a full season, or Matt Manning in Toledo for a full season. They could, it just doesn't feel like something they would do. These are guys that could help a major league team elsewhere. And the Tigers, like you said, Raj, when we're penciling in Colt Keith probably at second base, uh, there's room to upgrade. Now you got to find the right deal, and you got to find the right partner and somebody who wants one of these guys. But to a certain extent, I think Matt Manning would be appealing to, in a Jack Flaherty kind of way, to another team to say, hey, this guy's intriguing. He's kind of a similar pitcher. Like the only thing that really stands out about Flaherty is his extension. If you go to his baseball savant page, he's got a lot of extension, and they both don't really throw a changeup. They're both fastball, slider, curveball guys. The difference is Flaherty has proven he can strike guys out at the major league level.
Right.
Matt Manning never has. Now Manning has managed to get outs, which is the name of the game, right? It doesn't really matter how you do it, but you feel a little bit more confident with guys who can get those swings and misses. And I would say that the one thing that is a little bit kind of against type here is that Flaherty has struggled with walks the last couple seasons, or at least last year it was not, he wasn't throwing a ton of strikes. But presumably that's something that you could fix, like we talked about with Andrew Chafin, right? His walks went up last year too. Maybe they think they can help with that, and yeah, then you got a solid starter.
There's another thing too that a consideration that Chris McCoskey of the Detroit News, who we had on last week, said that he doesn't see the Tigers trading away young starters to do anything. But I don't think that's necessarily. I think the Tigers are going to rely on the farm system. Like I said, Cole Keith starting at second base and see what they have. But it's, again, if somebody's asking and they're giving you an offer you can't refuse, by all means. I mean, you look at the way they develop pitching, but wait, what? Somebody's trying to say in chat that Matt
Trevor Plouffe? What?
Somebody's trying to say that Matt Manning. Oh, do we see him?
He's asking if we see Matt Manning get traded.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know.
He got traded. Sorry, I totally lost my train of thought.
No,
there.
that was my speculation. We were just talking about that. I don't know if that is behind, if the video is behind the chat or whatever, but yeah.
We've talked about it many times, I always come back to the fact that Matt Manning has been with the Tigers for 3 years now, and he's averaged 14 and a quarter starts per year. Okay. And my thought to that is, if I'm a GM of another team, what am I paying for that? I'm not saying I'd have no interest in him, but what am I going to give up for that? He has no track record of giving me any innings whatsoever. So you're taking a big guess that you can turn him, maybe get his strikeout rate up, but also keep him healthy. I don't know. I always question exactly what he'll bring back for the Tigers.
Also, there's. Oh, sorry, Chris, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think you're right there. I think he would be an upside play for somebody, right? Mm-hmm. But it would probably be a deal where you're, as the Tigers, probably getting somebody else's upside play, maybe an infielder who has been struggling with injuries himself or has certain issues. I don't think you're going to get a Nolan Gorman or whatever that people want for Matt Manning. But again, it doesn't have to be Matt Manning. Right? It could be. We talked. He's the one that we think feels like the odd man out. But Reese Olson, like we said, he's shown a lot of promise. He's young. There's tons of control there. He might be more or intriguing to somebody. It's just I just think that they have enough depth there where they could do it and not be too worried about things falling apart during the course of the season.
Yeah, because you also look at what Ty Madden did the second half of the year in Erie. So you can take some sort of solace in that. Again,
Jackson Job's coming.
Yeah, Jackson Job. Yeah, Jackson Job. His first start, and his only start in Erie. Come on,
obviously you can't count on any of this, right? But there's talent on the way that you can say, okay, if we need an arm, we've got an arm. We've got Brant Herter, as a 10th option. I don't think they're going to be doing the Drew Hutchison thing again, but maybe I'm totally wrong, and maybe they do. Maybe Scott Harris wants to have big league caliber starters in Toledo, this beck and call. So when the injuries do come, he can call on them. Maybe that's the plan, which wouldn't be a bad plan either. It's kind of a bummer for the guys who pitched well enough to be in the big leagues and the job.
So I hesitate to bring it up because we've talked about it before too, but there's only one pitcher that moves the needle, right? Who's going to bring back a big return, something that shakes the organization up, brings back a premium talent?
Yeah.
That's Skubal.
Skubal.
And that's it. I mean, if you really want to say the Tigers have too much pitching, and that you can see that online in a bunch of places, and a trade is coming, if you really want to get somebody who can change the dynamic of the lineup, you got to move Skubal. I just don't think you're going to move Matt Manning or Reese Olson and get anything that you can really sink your teeth into. You know what I mean? I just don't see it.
And
Well,
I think it's possible. I would be bummed, but you're right.
I would.
And that's
Yeah.
the best asset you have. And if that's the way you want to build the roster, you use what you have.
we just addressed the Matt Manning question, but it's not a foregone. Yeah, you're right. It's not a foregone conclusion. It could be anybody. And if they're going to, if you look at the options right now, like I said, you look even a little further down in AA, like the emergence of with Ty Madden, you look at how that rotation shaped out with and Brent Hurler that Chris just mentioned now too. Those guys improve their stock. Hurler, similar to Sawyer Gibson Long, it's not talked about this much. They all learned a new pitch. They all thrived last year. I mean, Hurler was insane during the playoffs. He didn't allow a run over, I think, the last 18 innings of work. He was against two really good teams in Richmond and Binghamton. And it's just one of those things where it really depends on what they're going to put, how they value everybody else. But I just don't think that we can, I think under the Scott Harris administration, we picked up on a couple things. He likes a certain profile. And if we fit the profile, you're more likely to be coming in tighter. There's no guarantees of anything. I mean, I don't understand why people think that this is a bad move when in reality, it gives the Tigers greater flexibility to do something else. They could be doing more. We don't know. This is the first time. Tim, I understand what you're saying. Tigers used 11 starters last year. They don't want trading starters. I get it. But if they
used more than that the year before, but a lot of times those are guys that you can call up, you can bring up, you can get for cheap, right? Minor league free agents. It's just a matter of how much do you value having, there's worse things in the world than having like 6 starters during the course of the season and just having 3 big league quality arms toil away in Toledo. But I don't think from an organizational perspective that's a great look. Honestly, like if you want to be a place that is known for helping players, sticking them in the minors for a whole season just because you can, that doesn't. I don't know. I don't think it would attract future talent, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
I mean, you could be pretty simple. I mean, there's 2 ways to tackle this, and you could be the Tigers and make some noise, like I would say, make some noise and make a noise and go about it that way, or there's another option you could do. And I think this is something that people right now in other cities are doing, and we're witnessing it, and here it is.
Oh, there, black and white, clear as crystal. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
That's Minnesota in Kansas City right now, or Minnesota and Cleveland right now. They're doing absolutely nothing. And so I understand everybody has the right to complain, but this has been an interesting offseason. The Tigers have been one of the most active teams among anybody in the American League, or National League for that matter. And here they are, breaking news. We're doing a podcast. This is the third podcast we've done this week. We have done the third podcast. This is our third podcast this week. Fourth. Wait, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah. Tuesday. We did Cooper. We did Garco. We did today.
Yeah.
We've done a Chafin, a Cooper, a Garco, and a Flaherty.
And we got one Saturday. We're doing our top 30. We're reporting our top 30. So, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, the Tigers have done enough to keep us busy.
Well, they're bringing in veterans who all have had some measure of success and obviously some measure of stagnation in their career as well, which is why they were available and why they could afford them. And but they fit, Mark Canha gets on base. They can use it from the right side, correct? He's right-hand hitter. Is he a switch hitter?
Canha's right-handed hitter.
Right-handed hitter. Okay. I was going to remember if he switch hit or not. Maeda, been a league average pitcher a long time. Had some seasons where he's been much better than a league average pitcher. Obviously, we've just talked about Flaherty and, what his ceiling possibly could be. And, Chafin, 1 year removed from couple excellent seasons. So they have helped themselves. They just haven't made that one big splash that says, hey, we're here, but that's okay. If they just keep improving along the margins, they might run into something.
And then there's also here's another, somebody brought this up somebody just texted us to me, Connor, friend of the show, Connor, who helped us last year do some production stuff. He says they should go get a lights out closer, like something like Josh Hader. I don't, but then I saw yesterday, was it Mike Petrello of MLB.com posted Jason Foley, and you realize that Jason Foley's still, his K per 9 is where you kind of slight pause a little bit, but I think it still doesn't hurt to have another arm back there. But the Tigers re-signed. There's something we didn't talk about. We actually talked about this today with Garco, but Tigers re-signed Freddie Pacheco, a minor league deal, and that guy has a big arm. I mean, he had some really good numbers before his Tommy John surgery, so that's a guy they could weaponize. Maybe he gets off to a good start in Toledo, and you get a situation like Miguel Diaz. And so I think that there's something for that to be said about that. So, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind them going with I'm not gonna lie, I'd rather go with a vet. And vets in this case, there's no guarantees too about, you guys were mentioning Mize too, but what about Sawyer Gibson-Long, something we mentioned earlier today? He pitched in September numbers, we get all giddy about it, but in reality, it's the end of the season, and at some point, people just want to go home.
Yeah. No, I think that's McCoskey pointed out that Joey Wentz had a great September the year before, and things didn't work out. Somebody in the comments said, "Can I complain?" And I just want to it was Todd 63. Go ahead, Todd. Complain away. Yeah. We'll address it when you do. I will just say the one thing, like we haven't really touched on it, and going back a couple of weeks, we were all thinking the Tigers might be in on Imanaga. I think this probably closes the door on that, or on any of the bigger multi-year starters that are out there. This, Snell. We didn't think that they were going to go after them anyway, but I think this pretty much slams that door shut unless they trade multiple starters. So that I suppose is slightly disappointing, but who knows? Scott Harris did say we can never have enough pitching, so maybe he's just going to keep signing.
Well, let's face it. The money, the $14 million, and this money they spent on Maeda and Canha, where their payroll is, they should still want to go get Shoto Imanaga, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So really is now about numbers and how many people they have in the mix. Do they need him? Well, I would say yes, they need him. You always want talent. Okay. If the talent is there, you go get him. But you're right. I think that if they were to stay in the fray to get him, then that would make a trade very likely. And then maybe they could entertain the idea of losing someone at Skubal's level if they had this guy as well coming in through the back door.
Yeah, I mean, McCoskey said that they're not going to potentially stop getting at-bats for guys like Keith or Young. But again, Young has to spend time in Toledo because he hasn't spent any time in Toledo. And we don't expect, and something that was mentioned too, he only spent the Arizona Fall League at third base. So he doesn't even have a full season of third base underneath his belt. As far as Malloy goes, you could maybe put him as the DH. You could there's first base. Third base experiment's over, or he's going back out in the outfield. So, but at the same time, look, I agree with Chris completely. However, if some team is offering you a bat, a third baseman that can lock you in for a couple years, and you have Cole Keefe at second, and then eventually, what if they be able to move Baez or whatever the case is? There's so many scenarios that could happen. The bottom line is never. If somebody's going to give you a deal and they know that they're going to get the significant upgrade, I'm not going to say. If I'm the Tigers, I'm not going to say no. Again, there's so many players out there. There's a few players out there that I can think of off the top of my head that are getting. I mean, they're not getting at bats on a regular basis, and are going to. The Tigers desperately need a third baseman. They could use another bullpen arm. Well, it's just not. I just don't think we can pigeonhole the Tigers anymore. It's kind of refreshing because you cannot predict what they're going to. It's hard to predict to a certain extent. Like Flaherty made sense to me because I could see it being a reclamation project for Chris Fetter. But everything else, I mean, the Kenta Maeda signing was an eye opener because the Tigers haven't signed a Japanese pitcher since Nomo in 2001. And they haven't been in that market. And then they made one of their scouts part of the front office, a Japanese scout. They're making little things that are changing. And while people could complain about all this stuff, I get it. But it's, by the way, the Stan wants to say, wouldn't be surprised Malloy ends up third base in spring training, probably up north. They don't like him at third. Just, we were told that. So,
well, he's just, unfortunately, he's not very good at third. We talked about it during the course of the year. Like, for as bad as Nick Maton was at third base in Detroit, Malloy was worse than that, at least by, traditional fielding percentage. He was worse than that in Toledo, like significantly worse than that. Doesn't mean he can't get better. And we talked to him and he's a nice kid. But yeah, I think he's an outfielder now, an outfielder DH. We keep talking about second base and third base, but we've mentioned it before, that they could still go get another outfielder. Honestly, it's you got Green coming back from injury. You got Canna. You got Meadows. We think they like Meadows. He looked good to us. Doesn't mean he could. He's guaranteed a starting job, right?
No.
He's a guy who could go out in spring training and kind of scuffle, and then it's Green back in center or somebody else in center, and they need another bat in the outfield. So, or Matt Vierling, is out in the outfield. So I think that there are potentials. There's a potential to upgrade in a variety of ways via trade or still by free agency. I'm still skeptical they're going to go and sign a free agent bat. I don't think they're going out and getting Cody Bellinger or Gio Urshela or anything like that, but who knows?
Yeah, and you didn't even mention Carpenter. And everybody likes Kerry Carpenter, right? I think we can all agree on that. He's like a good guy, had his good run. But boy, he had that power outage down the stretch. And you got to wonder, what happens next year, if they count on him for full-time at bats, which way is that going to go? I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot proven there yet. We like some of the things we see, no question. But so that's where your thought of they're not out of the outfield market, I think, holds some water, definitely. And again, I'll go back to the guy we talked about the other night. Soler, to me, makes a lot of sense for this club. Right-handed power, on-base percentage.
Well, there's. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
No. I was just going to.
There was somebody saying that we all agree this is going to be extremely fun spring training. Hell yeah. I mean, they also announced yesterday that they're going to have a prospects game. The Tigers will take on the Phillies in Lakeland. And I want to be down there for it. I want to live stream from that shit. I mean, pardon my language, but I do. I think that's a fantastic idea. That's innovative thinking. When baseball can innovatively think, that is awesome. And that just, pardon the lack of action has been besides awesome, but it is creative thinking. And when MLB can do things like this, it makes more sense than the NBA tournament because the NBA in-season tournament has made no sense. I don't know how it works. I mean, I know that you get extra bonus money to get a cool court and get these jerseys. But other than that, the idea has been stupid.
But are they going to raise a banner for that?
Yeah, but then again, is
that right? Oh, I didn't know.
Then again, I mean, we're living in a town that has their basketball team that has lost 20 in a row, and nothing's been done. Nothing. It's so buckle up. I mean, I know we're appealing to a baseball crowd here, but imagine being a Pistons fan right now.
But I think the point is right. I think it will be a fun spring training. Let's say they don't do a darn thing from right now till spring training, and I think they will do a couple of moves here and there. But let's say they do nothing. I mean, there's going to be a lot of turmoil in that camp in terms of who's playing where, and see who's adapting to what positions, which of the young guys are hitting and put themselves in position, which of the veterans come back and are healthy, namely Riley Green and Casey Mize. There's going to be a whole lot of stuff to track. It will be a good time, and they're in a division they can win to boot.
Yeah, I mean, to your point earlier, the only news about Cleveland is that, well, they took a guy in the Rule 5 who was a huge strikeout, power hitting first baseman. And the only other news is they're looking to trade Shane Bieber. Cleveland, does a great job of developing pitchers. And so, I don't think they're going to fall too far behind or whatever. But yeah, like you said, the Twins haven't done anything. The Cleveland hasn't done anything. The Royals are making moves. Good for them. They signed Seth Lugo. We talked about. They've signed a couple other guys. Did they get Will Smith? I think it was.
Yeah.
The lefty. Yeah. So good for the Royals making moves. But yeah, the Tigers. It feels like the Tigers are tentatively going for it in a way that, like, they're not making any giant splashes or long-term commitments, but they feel like that they can compete for the division with minor moves, which may be true, maybe not. Maybe they fall on their face again in the early part of the season.
Look what Jack Flaherty tweeted out. I mean, come on. I mean, he hit me in my third grade heart rate. Like that. That's to me says all the thing I need to know about Jack Flaherty.
Well,
because
Jack Flaherty.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nothing. I was just going to talk about where he's from. But
L.A. Yeah, right.
Harvard Westlake, the school. He was in the same pitching rotation in high school with Lucas Giolito and I'm forgetting the lefty from the Braves. Max Fried, yeah. They were all in the same high school rotation.
Yeah.
But who else went to that school? Brennan Bosch. We're bringing it back. We're bringing it back to Boschville.
No, and it's I'm trying to think if he was around if he witnessed. No, he wasn't old enough to witness Isaiah Thomas on one of the greatest performances I've never talked about this because of the baseball podcast. One of the greatest performances of all time. Isaiah Thomas scoring 40 odd points on one leg, on one ankle.
It was
one good.
Wasn't like 27 in one quarter.
Yeah, 27 in one quarter.
Yeah, maybe 20, whatever, 25 on the back after the ankle, after he hurt himself.
That's seriously. That is. I mean, you can say you want by Isaiah Thomas being a wreck as a person and all that, but let's talk about one of the greatest playoff performances of all time. I mean, I witnessed it watching that whole game, and I was in awe of that. And then it's just like we hear stuff. Yeah. Anyway, it's not here nor there.
No, that's a fun. And I wouldn't have expected that. I would have expected like Miguel Cabrera or Verlander or Barry Sanders even or something. I wouldn't have expected a Zeke picture. That's kind of fun.
Bad boy Pistons, absolutely.
Yeah. He's got a. I mean, I'm supposed to be not a fan. I'm supposed to be an objective person, but got a little brownie points on that. But
so what's a success for Flaherty in Detroit? What does it look like to you? What's that season look like?
25 or more starts and a FIP around 3.75 would be fine by me.
Oh, that's a lot more than I'm expecting.
Yeah.
That would be a lot more. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That would be. I think you're getting close to like 3-WAR season if you do that, which is possible. I mean, we've seen him. He's had that. He's got that talent. He's done it before. I would expect something more like he did last year, 4.3, 4.2 FIP. And if you get 25 starts, 150 innings out of him, something like that, I think you're bringing him in to be your number 4, number 5 again, right? Like it's just Michael Lorenzen with different name. And if he pitches like Michael Lorenzen, that's a huge win, I think.
By the way, this is just a strange move. The Yankees picked up Billy McKinley for a minor league deal. And then they traded him to Pittsburgh just now for cash considerations for I think international cash money. How many times has Billy McKinley been traded? I feel like he's been with the Yankees like 5 times, right?
No, well, even before that, he is the definition of a quad A player. He must be on like his 8th or 10th organization already. I mean, he was with the Cubs, he was with the A's. He's
Dodgers too, I think.
But also the Yankees and Pirates just always make deals with each other. Just always,
Yeah.
going back decades.
Yeah, you're right. The Royals and the Pirates have been the Yankees affiliates in some way, shape, or form, and trade partners, for lack of a better word. I mean, that's Jack. The international sign period starts next January 15th.
Yep, January 15th is when the 23 class can sign. It's always fun now that the 23 class signs in 24 because of they moved it back 6 months after the COVID year. But yeah, so we'll start seeing some of those names in another about 1 month from now.
All right, you guys want to make want to take a guess of how many times he's been traded? Let's go. Let's go start here. So he was a first round draft pick by the A's. The following season, he was traded to the A's with Addison Russell, Dan Straley, to the Cubs for Jason Hamill and Samardzija, and then just Samardzija deal. 2 seasons later, traded by the Cubs with Gleyber Torres and Adam Warren to the Yankees for Chapman. Then in 2018, traded to the Jays for Jay Happ along with Brandon Drury. Then he was selected off waivers by the Brewers. Then the Brewers traded him to the Mets for Pedro Quintana. Then a month or 2 months later, was traded by the Mets to the Dodgers for Carlos Racon. Then he was purchased by the Rangers from the Dodgers in November 2021. He signed back with the A's, got free agency, and now the Yankees, and he got traded to the Pirates.
So the Pirates that's 9th team, I believe.
Yeah.
On his gravestone, it's going to say popular but expendable.
Is the Joel Youngblood of the modern times, for anybody that can get that reference?
Ooh, the man traded for himself, right?
Yeah, that guy got traded quite a bit too. But it's interesting. I just think I don't know that wasn't the big headline, obviously, but Jack Flaherty to the Tigers, and we'll see what happens from here. I think the Tigers will probably make one more move before Christmas, so buckle up, folks. I mean, I think there's just going to be more to come, and also for some of the tea leave readers out there, some blogs out there that are kind of speculating or what have you, or just kind of, it's common sense, folks. It's not. I think I really think that I'm saying this because we've been busting our asses all week with everything. And then when some people's like, well, the implementation or the impliedness of things that are going to change, it's like, well, no shit, Sherlock. That's what's going to happen when you have a new front office. I don't know, like some of the experts out there, I don't know, just a little venting on my own a little bit because, yeah. As far as the next pod goes, Saturday we're recording our top 30, but I think we might be recording. I'm not sure if we're going to live stream it because we might try to do it before the Lions game, but I don't know yet. We have to figure that part out yet. But tomorrow's a day off. That's for sure.
Tomorrow we're probably gonna have the Michael Wacha sighting, so I'll cover that.
Yeah, the emergency pod on Michael Wacha. What does my life have come to?
You're just getting all the old Cardinals.
Yeah. By the way, Bada Bing, I gotta give some credit to him. He has been very consistent on getting Edwin Arroyo from the Reds. Props to him in our chat.
Yeah, I mean, Arroyo was shortstop, same class as Meyer, Echo, that whole class where everybody wanted Marcelo Meyer instead of Jackson Jobe. He came out and was one of the better performers, and then got traded to the Reds for Luis Castillo, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So, I actually haven't been following up his progress that much since 2022. I didn't see a ton from him last year, but people have mentioned the Reds as a team to trade with. People have mentioned the Orioles a bunch. I know people don't like to think about it, but the Rays just traded away their best starter, and they have tons and tons and tons and tons of prospects all the time. And they seem like the organization that could fix Matt Manning. Maybe work out a deal there, or not. Like we said, maybe people are right and they just want a lot of depth. Somebody earlier mentioned they want competition in spring training, which is fine. Obviously, it's good, but again, Jack Flaherty's not competing for a job. You don't pay a guy $15 million or $14 million to compete for a job. So you could, in spring training, have Long, Manning, and Olsen all vastly outperform Jack Flaherty and still have him in the rotation. So it's just one of those things. I just think there's a numbers game that might not work out there, but we'll see.
All right. Final thoughts, gentlemen, or you have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Well, just when you brought up the Rays, I keep hearing Randy Arozarena is available. That's seems like that.
He took a picture of Shohei Ohtani. That means he's going to Dodgers. And then Francis Romeo, friend of the show, all he put out was just another picture.
Yeah. But not even just for the Dodgers, though. I just think that's the kind of talent you could see them moving. They don't hold these guys, and he's just good enough to have a market. And again, a right-hander with speed and power. Maybe not enough walks for Scott Harris's liking.
Yeah, someone mentioned in the chat you trade Manning and Young like Dombrowski would have. I think Dombrowski would have, but I think at the same time, I think Young is a much better version of Scott Sizemore, who he chose to start at second base instead of signing Placido Polanco. So I don't know. I mean, a second baseman with power like that, I don't know if you would trade him, but anyway, I mean, it's a yeah, that is a funny. I like that comment though. Thank you, Base, for that. That's good stuff. But Chris, any final thoughts?
Other Jack Flaherty, 3 years younger than Spencer Turnbull.
Yeah, less of an attitude.
Well, as far as we know, yeah. I mean, he seems like a good dude. Yeah, I don't know. I just somebody just said another reclamation project, and that's again, but that's kind of what the Tigers have signed up to be. They want to be the org that can help guys get better. And this is as good as any of the reclamation projects that are out there. And I really liked Tyler Mahle or whatever. And then the Rangers went out and signed him for a 2-year, $24 million deal or something like that. He's not going to pitch until late this year. I thought that would have been a good one. But other than him, you're looking at Giolito, you're looking at Flaherty, Severino, Frankie Montas. Those are all guys out there that are up in the air. But all those guys, I think Flaherty pitched the best last year. I mean, he may have pitched better than Giolito. I don't know. But so I don't know. He seems like a decent gamble here. Okay.
And Dan Fernandez in the chat perfectly said, we have enough depth that they probably wouldn't see Wentz and Faedo starting games in 2024. Bingo. That's exactly it. Wentz still needs to work on missing bats on a consistent basis. I think he might end up being a bullpen arm. They might weaponize Faedo as a bullpen arm. I don't know. But there is and deep to center who's got here's packages Manning for the Dodgers. I don't know what they're going to do. Again, I think if they do, if we think it's Manning, it could be anything so possible. But I think what Connor said it best here. If the Yamamoto deal wasn't so inflated, Yamada's market would be more suitable for the Tigers. And I totally, agree with that too. So, and they could, they could bring Lucas Giolito in. Who knows? As a reclamation project, I mean, they're high school teammates.
Sure.
It's possible.
I like the one the one Connor said earlier about, hey, this is not Ivan Nova.
Yeah.
They're bringing in some guys who has some track record of success, and if things break right, could be a slam dunk. I mean, it's possible. We all know the downside, but there's upside with several of these guys.
Yeah. No, there's Dan. I think what Dan said, if you don't have to start those guys, then you're in a much better position. Because if you're looking at the AAA rotation, we're just talking about this in our chat with Brandon Day and Mark. You could see Brandon said Sawyer Gibson Long, Montero, Flores, Madden, and Hurdler at Toledo. That's a pretty badass rotation considering what we saw last year in Toledo. That Toledo rotation was beginning of the year minus Olsen was garbage. Was flat out garbage. And if Sawyer Gibson Long starts the year in Toledo with those four, that's not bad at rotation. That is a pretty damn good rotation. So all things considering, and as far as we had to get a couple questions in here real quick. I think Chris said that Keith thinks he's going to make the opening day roster at second base. I think he will too. But again, I think there's going to be a move or two to change up the rotation even more a little bit. So if they time one more pitcher, I would feel better about that. I really want another bullpen arm, but the idea of, I think, even making Wilmer Flores could end up being a bullpen arm. Montero could be too. You have some options. You have some options with that. I think the reason why I was thinking about Flores is because he has a lot of zip in his fastball. So, Gibson Long's best attribute, velocity. No, I would think is movement. He's really good at manipulating and commanding of his secondary stuff. His fastball doesn't sit that high, but he has a really good changeup. And on that, yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, no, I would just say he strikes me. It reminded me of what Scott Harris said about Kenta Maeda in his press conference about how Maeda can work pitches to all different parts of the plate, and that's something that Gibson Long got really good at last year. Once the changeup took a step forward and he had different shapes on his fastball and his slider, he was really locating to all four quadrants with all his different pitches, and it's not one attribute so much. Although I did agree, my initial thought was the movement on his pitches. Yeah, I think it's the culmination of all those things together. And again, yeah, like Raj said at the beginning of the show, a good September does not make you a good big league starter, but it's nice to see. He came and had a couple of really nice outings. So at the very least, he's good depth. I think Olsen did more than Gibson Long, obviously, to justify a spot in the rotation. So that one would be weirder to me if Olsen went back in Toledo.
All right. Well, I mean, it's going to be I think it's going to be all out. You think Chris is going to be an all out? It could be even maybe my starts the year in Toledo, because I mean he might need some season.
Very possible.
Yeah.
And we don't know if he's healthy.
Yeah. It's been reported he's healthy.
But yeah, was I think there was a piece today. He's healthy, throwing all his pitches and stuff. But again, you got until you get out there and do it. We think back to Michael Fulmer. They get out there and do it and prove it, and get out there and really let loose before we know. So.
All right. On that note, thanks so much for listening to the Emergency Pod. This was a very good high turnout too. I appreciate everybody checking it out. Please go to the Tiger Minded Report and check out our podcast with JJ Cooper. And we also have the Ryan Garko interview we just dropped today. It's over on YouTube, and I just dropped the link in here, but it's easily on their Tiger Minded Report. You can go there and please subscribe on our YouTube channel if you haven't already. And we'll be also, like I said, we're breaking out our top 30 on Saturday. A couple scouting reports coming out, and we thank you, Walter. Appreciate that. Ryan Garko was fantastic, and he was more than generous with his time. And same thing with JJ Cooper. It was awesome. We're really, honestly, thank you all for keeping us motivated, keeping us going, and we really appreciate all the support. Again, there's a PayPal link in the show description if you want to donate and help us out as we try to get spring training so we could do these things. Because again, we don't get paid very much to do this at all, and we just do it because we love the game. But every bit goes a long way. So have a good night, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. And yeah. Oh yeah, I was gonna say something else profound, but I'm lost my train of thought. Have a good night.
I start now.
Wait. Yeah. By the way, do you think Reese can throw 100 consistently from the bullpen? Yeah. If on a short lease, definitely. But we'll end the podcast with that. And no, I don't think they've fixed their hitting yet. So they're anemic hitting. Good night, everybody.